You ever been knocked down so hard that the world started to sound quiet? That silence, that moment where you start asking yourself, why me? See, that's the moment right there. Not when you fall, but when you decide if you're going to stay down or rise up. That's where comeback stories are born. Not in comfort, not in success, but in the middle of your pain. Life ain't about what happens when everything goes right. It's about what you do when everything goes wrong. Own your setback. That's where everything begins. See, most people run from it. They hide behind excuses, behind pride, behind that voice that says, it's not my fault. But you can't heal what you refuse to face. The truth is, we all mess up. We all fall short. We all have that one moment we wish we could rewind and do differently. But here's the thing. Running from the fall won't make it disappear. It just makes the pain chase you longer. When you finally stop, turn around, and face it, that's when things start to change. Owning your setback doesn't mean you like it. It doesn't mean you wanted it. It means you accept that it happened, and that you've got the power to do something about it. I remember a guy who lost his business after 5 years of grinding. He blamed the economy, his partner, the customers. And maybe he was right. Maybe they did him wrong. But the day he looked in the mirror and said, maybe I could have done more. Maybe I stopped learning. Maybe I got too comfortable. That was the day he started to grow again. Within a year, he built something even bigger. Not because the world changed, but because he did. There's something powerful about taking ownership of your story. When you say, this happened to me, but I'm not going to let it define me, you take control back. Life will throw you curveballs. Heartbreak, betrayal, loss, failure. You can't stop that. But you can decide whether those moments break you or build you. If you let pain own you, it'll control your choices. But if you own the pain, you control the lesson. Think about it. When a storm hits, most people run for cover. They hide. They wait it out. But the eagle flies straight into the storm. Because it knows that the wind, the same force that could knock it down, can also lift it higher if it angles itself right. That's what owning your setback looks like. It's facing the storm, spreading your wings, saying, all right, let's see what you've got. Owning your setback also means being honest with yourself. It's easy to say, they didn't believe in me. But ask yourself, did you believe in you? It's easy to say, they let me down. But were you relying too much on their approval to begin with? Sometimes, the hardest conversation you'll ever have is the one with yourself. But that's the conversation that separates people who repeat their mistakes from those who rise above them. There was this young athlete once, full of talent, full of drive. He was supposed to go pro. Then came the injury. Tore his knee, dream gone. For a year, he lived in anger. Every time someone mentioned sports, he shut down. One day, a coach told him, man, you're not mad about the injury. You're mad because you think the injury owns you. Take it back. So he did. He stopped feeling sorry for himself and started training kids instead. Turned that pain into purpose. Today, he's not just coaching athletes. He's changing lives. That's what happens when you own your setback. The power isn't in pretending everything's okay. It's in saying, yeah, it hurt. Yeah, I failed. But that's not the end of me. Too many people live in denial. They hide their wounds because they're afraid people will judge them. But listen, your scars aren't shameful. They're proof you survived. They're your story written in skin. Every time you own your setback, you remind others it's okay to start again. When you take ownership, you also take away the world's ability to use your past against you. People might say, remember when you messed up? And you can say, yeah, I remember. And I remember how I got up. When you do that, you turn what was once a weakness into a weapon. You become untouchable, not because you never fail, but because failure doesn't scare you anymore. Look around. The people you admire most aren't the ones who had it easy. They're the ones who took the hit and said, I'll be back. The actor who got rejected from 100 auditions but still showed up. the student who failed a class and studied twice as hard, the single parent who started over with nothing but hope. They all own their setback. They didn't wait for the world to feel sorry for them. They made the world respect their comeback. You got to understand, taking ownership isn't about guilt, it's about growth. It's about saying, I can't change the past, but I can learn from it. Every mistake holds a message. Every fall leaves a clue. If you don't own it, you'll miss the lesson. But once you do, every setback becomes a stepping stone. Life's not fair. That's the truth. But that's also the beauty. Because if it were fair, nobody would have the chance to rise above it. The comeback story only exists because something went wrong first. So the next time life knocks you down, don't waste your breath asking, why me? Ask, what now? That question, right there, flips the switch. That's where power begins to shift back into your hands. Own your setback, because the moment you do, it loses its grip on you. The weight starts to lift, the fear starts to fade, and that's when you realize the fall didn't break you, it built you. It forced you to look inside, to find strength you didn't know was there. It made you tougher, wiser, hungrier. That's the real victory, not avoiding failure, but transforming it into fire. Learn the lesson. Every time life hits you, it's trying to tell you something. The problem is, most people are too busy being angry to hear the message. They get stuck in the pain, in the blame, in the part where it hurts the most. But pain has a language. It speaks quietly, through disappointment, through loss, through failure. It's like life tapping you on the shoulder saying, hey, this is where you need to grow. If you ignore it, it comes back louder. Again and again, until you finally stop and listen. Every setback carries a hidden lesson. But it won't reveal itself until you slow down and ask, what is this moment trying to teach me? Maybe the lesson is patience. Maybe it's humility. Maybe it's learning to trust yourself when nobody else does. Maybe it's learning that not everyone you call friend deserves that title. Life doesn't waste pain. It always sends it with purpose. But the reward only goes to those who pay attention. Think about it. How many times have you failed at something and later realized it was preparing you for something greater? You didn't get that job because you weren't meant to fit in there. You didn't get that relationship because it was teaching you how to love yourself first. You didn't win that competition because the loss was building discipline, not trophies. Sometimes the lesson isn't about what you lost. It's about who you became because of it. There was a young man who dreamed of becoming a pilot. He applied for the training program 3 times and got rejected each time. Every rejection felt like the world was laughing at him. But instead of giving up, he started asking questions. What did they see that he didn't? What was missing? He worked on his discipline, his health, his focus. By the 4th attempt, he didn't just pass, he excelled. He told me once, the rejections weren't punishment. They were preparation. That's what learning the lesson looks like. The truth is, most people hate failure because they think it means they're not good enough. But failure doesn't mean you're not capable. It means you're being coached by life itself. And life doesn't hand out free wins. It makes you earn them. It teaches through repetition, through mistakes, through discomfort. And once you learn the lesson, you don't just survive the pain. You outgrow it. Imagine someone touching a hot stove. The first instinct is to pull back, to curse the pain, to blame the stove. But the real growth happens when they think, all right, that burned me because I wasn't paying attention. Next time, I'll be more careful. The pain becomes a teacher. And once you've learned from it, you never make that same mistake again. Learning the lesson is also about letting go of ego. The ego hates to be wrong. It hates to admit mistakes. But wisdom doesn't live where pride is. It lives where humility begins. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can say is, I was wrong. And now I know better. Because the moment you say that, you stop repeating the same mistakes. I remember a woman who lost everything after trusting the wrong people in business. She was furious, hurt, broken. For months, she kept asking, why did this happen to me? One day, she realized she had ignored every red flag because she wanted to believe in people more than she believed in her own intuition. That was her lesson. She didn't become cold after that. She became wiser. She learned to listen to her instincts, and her next business became unstoppable. The loss didn't destroy her, it educated her. Learning the lesson means choosing reflection over reaction. It's easy to complain. It's easy to point fingers, but reflection is where growth lives. When you ask yourself, what did I miss? What could I have done differently? You're no longer a victim. You're a student. And every great leader, every great mind, every great soul started as a student of their own failures. Sometimes the lesson isn't loud. Sometimes it's hidden in silence. Maybe the deal you lost was teaching you patience. Maybe that heartbreak was teaching you boundaries. Maybe that delay was teaching you to trust timing. Every closed door has a whisper behind it saying, not yet, not here, not this way. You've got to be quiet enough to hear that whisper. People think pain is punishment, but it's actually direction. Life redirects you when you're off course. It humbles you when you're arrogant. It slows you down when you're rushing. It wakes you up when you're asleep at the wheel. And if you're wise enough, you'll stop asking, why me? And start asking, what now? The lesson isn't always about success either. Sometimes it's about compassion. When you've fallen, you start to understand others who fall. When you've been rejected, you learn empathy. When you've struggled, you appreciate the climb. Every hard season makes you softer where it matters and stronger where it counts. So the next time life knocks you down, don't just rush to stand up. Sit in it for a second. Breathe. Ask yourself, what am I supposed to see here? Because if you skip the lesson, life will send the test again. And this time, it'll hit harder. But if you learn it, truly learn it, that same situation will never have the power to break you again. In the end, learning the lesson is how you evolve. It's how you turn chaos into clarity, wounds into wisdom, failure into focus. You stop fighting the pain and start using it. Because every scar you carry holds a story, and every story carries a truth you can grow from. The question is never, why did this happen to me? It's, what is this trying to teach me right now? That's where your power begins to return. That's where change starts to happen inside you. That's how you move from being broken to becoming built. Rebuild your confidence. That's the hardest thing to do after life knocks you down. Because when you fail, when you lose, when everything you believed in suddenly crumbles, the first thing that gets shattered isn't your job, your dream, or your plan. It's your confidence. That quiet voice inside that once said, I can do this, starts to whisper, maybe I can't. And that's the real battle, not against the world, but against that voice inside you that stopped believing. Confidence doesn't vanish overnight. It fades slowly, piece by piece. With every rejection, every failure, every moment someone makes you feel like you're not enough. You start walking smaller, speaking softer, doubting your own choices. But here's the truth nobody tells you. Confidence isn't something you're born with, it's something you build. And if it was built once, it can be rebuilt again. Think of confidence like a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it gets. But when life hits you hard, you stop using it. You stop showing up. You start hiding. And like any unused muscle, it weakens. So to rebuild it, you've got to move again. You've got to take one small step, then another, even when you don't feel ready. Because confidence doesn't come before action. It comes after action. I once met a man who had everything going for him. A career, success, respect. Then one day he made a mistake that cost him his job and his reputation. He went from walking with his head high to avoiding eye contact with anyone he knew. For months, he hid in shame. But then something changed. He started waking up early, working on himself, doing small things that made him feel capable again. He didn't chase validation. He rebuilt trust with himself. That's the secret. Real confidence doesn't come from people clapping for you. It comes from you clapping for yourself in silence. Sometimes rebuilding confidence means forgiving yourself. We carry guilt like chains, dragging our past into every new chapter. But you can't move forward if you're still punishing yourself for yesterday. When you say, I messed up, but I'm still worthy, that's when healing begins. Nobody can rebuild confidence for you. People can encourage you, but the work, the real, gritty, lonely work, has to come from within. Confidence also grows when you stop comparing your journey to others. That's one of the biggest killers of self-belief. You see someone else winning, smiling, thriving, and you think, why not me? But you don't see their scars, their sleepless nights, their failures behind closed doors. Everyone's timeline is different. The moment you stop measuring your worth against others, your energy starts coming back because your lane was built for you, and no one can walk it better. There's a woman I know who went through a brutal divorce. She said she felt invisible after it, like her value had vanished. But instead of staying broken, she decided to start small. She learned a new skill. She worked out even when she didn't want to. She started looking in the mirror and saying, "You're not done yet?" It sounded silly at first, but day by day, her tone changed from doubt to certainty. Now she runs her own business. When I asked her how she did it, she said, I started acting like the person I wanted to become before I actually became her. That's rebuilding confidence. Behaving like your future self before you see her reflection. Confidence doesn't mean you never feel fear again. It means you stop letting fear make your decisions. You can be scared and still move forward. You can doubt yourself and still take action. Courage is not the absence of fear. It's the decision that something else matters more. And every time you act in spite of fear, your confidence rebuilds another layer. You've got to speak to yourself differently, too. Because the words you say in your head become the foundation you stand on. If you keep saying, I can't, I'm not good enough, I'll never make it, your brain believes it. Start changing that language even if it feels fake at first. Say, I'm learning, I'm improving, I'm getting stronger. Say it until it starts to sound familiar. Because self-talk isn't cheesy. It's rewiring your mind for strength. Another thing about rebuilding confidence, you can't wait for perfect conditions. People keep saying, I'll start when I feel ready. But ready never comes. Confidence grows from movement, not from waiting. Go on that interview even if your voice shakes. Speak up even if your heart races. Post that idea even if you think it's not perfect. The moment you act despite fear, something shifts inside you. And don't forget, confidence is quiet. The loudest person in the room isn't always the most confident one. True confidence doesn't need to prove itself. It's calm. It's steady. It's the kind of strength that says, I've been through worse, and I'm still standing. When you rebuild your confidence, you start walking differently, not with arrogance, but with assurance. Daily life will test it again and again. People will doubt you. Circumstances will challenge you. Some days you'll feel that old insecurity creeping back in, but that's okay. Rebuilding confidence is not about never feeling weak. It's about remembering your strength even when you do. Like a boxer who's been knocked down but keeps getting up. Every time you rise, you remind yourself what you're made of. I know a student who failed his final year. Everyone said he'd wasted his potential. He didn't argue. He just quietly worked, retook the exams, and passed with distinction the next year. When I asked him how he kept going, he said, I just stopped letting failure be louder than my effort. That line hit me. Because confidence isn't about ignoring failure. It's about making your comeback louder than your fall. You don't need the world to believe in you. You just need one person. You. When you look in the mirror and say, I've got this. Even if it's just a whisper, that's the spark. It doesn't have to be loud to be powerful. It just has to be real. That's how you rebuild confidence. Brick by brick, day by day, through the small wins that nobody sees but you. Because those quiet victories, those unseen moments of strength, are what turn self-doubt into self-trust. Stay consistent. That's the real secret behind every great story you've ever heard. People talk about talent, luck, but none of that matters without consistency. It's not the fire that burns brightest that lasts. It's the one that keeps burning when no one's watching. Most people can start. Anyone can feel motivated for a day, a week, maybe even a month. But it's the ones who keep showing up after the excitement fades, after the applause stops, after the results slow down. They're the ones who win. Staying consistent is hard because it's not glamorous. It's waking up early when the bed feels too good. It's showing up to the gym when no one's cheering you on. It's putting in the work when the world isn't giving you any credit. Consistency is quiet, boring even, but it builds empires. The truth is, people don't fail because they don't have potential. They fail because they stop showing up when it stops being easy. Think about the farmer. He plants a seed, waters it every day, and for weeks, nothing happens. No sprout, no sign of life. People walk by and laugh, saying, "You're wasting your time." But he keeps watering, keeps waiting, keeps working. And one day, that seed breaks through the soil, and everyone calls it a miracle. But it wasn't a miracle. It was consistency. Because the truth is, growth happens underground before it ever shows above the surface. There's a young boxer I once knew. He wasn't the strongest. He wasn't the fastest, but he never missed a day in the gym. Rain or shine, pain or exhaustion, he was there. Others mocked him, saying he trained too much, that he'd burn out. Years passed, and one by one, those same people disappeared. He kept going. He didn't train for a title. He trained for a habit. And the habit became his strength. When his big fight finally came, he didn't need motivation. He had muscle memory built from years of showing up, and he won. Not because he was gifted, but because he was consistent. Staying consistent is also about trusting the process when results are invisible. Everyone loves the idea of progress, but few can handle the silence that comes before it. Sometimes you'll be doing everything right, working hard, staying disciplined, and still feel like nothing's changing. That's where most people quit. But those who keep going, who stay consistent even in the quiet, they discover that progress doesn't shout, it whispers. Every small action compounds, like drops filling a bucket, and one day it overflows. It's like learning an instrument. The first few months are painful. Your fingers hurt. The sound is rough. You feel like you'll never get it. But you keep practicing. You play the same chord 1,000 times. And then one day, your hands just move without thinking. What used to be struggle becomes flow. That's the reward of consistency. You transform repetition into mastery. Sometimes people confuse consistency with perfection. But it's not about never missing a step. It's about showing up again. Even when you stumble, you'll have off days. You'll lose focus. But staying consistent means forgiving yourself for the bad days and returning stronger the next. It's not about being flawless. It's about being faithful to the mission. A friend of mine once tried to get fit. She went hard for 2 weeks. Strict diet, daily workouts, full intensity. Then she burned out. She stopped completely. Months later, she started again, but this time she promised herself something simple. Just 30 minutes a day. Even if she didn't feel like it, even if it wasn't perfect. And she stuck with it. A year later, she looked back and realized she hadn't just changed her body, she'd changed her identity. She wasn't someone trying to get fit anymore. She was just someone who worked out. That's what consistency does. It shifts who you are from the inside out. Consistency also builds trust, not just with others, but with yourself. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, you strengthen your own belief in your word. But every time you quit on yourself, you weaken that trust. People who stay consistent aren't superhuman. They just refuse to break that internal agreement. They say, if I said I'll do it, I'll do it. And that kind of discipline becomes unstoppable. There's something powerful about the idea of small daily effort. 1 page a day becomes a book. 1 workout a day becomes a transformation. $1 a day becomes wealth. It's never about massive leaps. It's about the steps you take when no one's clapping. Consistency is slow. It's not thrilling, but it's undefeated. You might not see the payoff today, or tomorrow, or even next month, but it's coming, because consistency always cashes out. The world notices when you keep showing up. Opportunities start to find you. People start to trust you. And more importantly, you start to trust yourself again. In daily life, think of the people who inspire you. The teacher who shows up every morning with energy. The parent who keeps providing no matter how tired they are. The friend who always checks in. They might not make headlines, but they're living proof that consistency changes everything. Even in the darkest moments, staying consistent gives you direction. When your emotions are chaos, your habits are your compass. When motivation disappears, routine carries you forward. That's why consistency matters. It keeps you moving when everything else tries to hold you still. And here's the truth. Nobody sees the struggle behind consistency. They only see the success that comes after it. People will call you lucky, gifted, chosen, but you'll know the truth. You'll know about the nights you didn't give up, the mornings you pushed through fatigue, the moments you kept faith in your own effort. Because that's what consistency really is. Faith in action. Staying consistent is like chipping away at stone. It doesn't change shape on the first hit, or the 10th, or the 100th. But keep striking, and one day it cracks wide open. Not because of the final blow, but because of every single one that came before it. That's how greatness is built, slowly, quietly, one day at a time, by those who refuse to stop showing up. Speak your comeback into existence. Because the words you speak are not just sounds, they are seeds. And every seed you plant grows into something. Doubt or confidence, fear or faith, failure or victory. Most people don't realize it, but the conversations you have with yourself shape the life you live. If you keep telling yourself you're broken, you'll live like you are. If you keep saying you're stuck, you'll stay that way. But the moment you start speaking like your future already belongs to you, everything begins to shift. It's not magic, it's mindset. The world listens to the language you use about yourself. Your words are energy, and they build the atmosphere you walk in every day. Think about it. How do you talk to yourself when no one's around? Do you say, "I'll never make it," or do you say, "I'm on my way"? Because that difference in tone can decide the path your life takes. Your voice can be your weapon, or it can be your weakness. The choice is yours. There was a man I once knew who lost his dream job. Overnight, everything he had worked for disappeared. For weeks, he walked around saying, "I'm finished, I'm done, I can't bounce back from this." And every time he said it, it became more real. His energy dropped. His body language changed. Opportunities passed him by. Then one day, he decided to change the script. He started saying, "I'm rebuilding. I'm coming back stronger. This fall is just a setup." He said it even when he didn't believe it. He said it until the sound of his own words felt natural again. 6 months later, he landed a better position in a better company. Doing what he loved. It wasn't luck. It was language. He spoke his comeback until it answered him. You have to understand. Your words are not just reflections of your reality. They're blueprints for it. When you speak, you give direction to your energy. You declare where your focus goes. If all you talk about is what went wrong, your attention stays trapped in the past. But when you start saying things like, "Learning, I'm growing, I'm getting ready," your focus moves forward. Life follows focus. There's a young woman I remember who wanted to be a singer. She had talent, but every audition she went to, she said things like, "I'm probably not good enough, they won't pick me anyway." And guess what? She was right. Not because she lacked skill, but because she kept convincing herself she didn't deserve it. One day, her friend told her, "Stop rehearsing failure with your mouth." That line hit her hard. She changed her self-talk completely. Before auditions, she'd say, "I belong in that room. I'm ready. I've got something they need to hear." Her confidence changed, her energy changed, and eventually, her reality did too. You can't have a winning life with a losing language. You can't talk small and expect to live big. The words you use every day create the world you walk in. When you say, I'm not lucky, life listens. When you say, I'm unstoppable, life listens. So stop waiting for permission to believe in yourself. Give it to yourself. Speak it out loud until it feels true. You don't have to shout it from rooftops. Sometimes, it's just those quiet words you whisper to yourself when nobody believes in you. I'm not done yet. I'm still standing. This pain won't last forever. Those small declarations are how you rebuild your spirit piece by piece. It's not about pretending everything's perfect. It's about reminding yourself that you still have power, even in the storm. Think about athletes. Before every game, they talk themselves into focus. They say, I'm ready. I've trained for this. I'm built for this moment. That's not arrogance. That's alignment. They're sensing their mind with their mission. They're speaking their reality before it happens. Because confidence isn't about what you have. It's about what you say about what you have. There's a story about a student who failed his exams twice. Everyone told him to give up. His friends stopped encouraging him. His teacher said maybe it wasn't his path. But every night, he'd look in the mirror and say, I will make it. I don't care how long it takes. He said it every single day, through tears, through fatigue, through doubt. The third time, he passed with top marks. Later, he said, my results changed the moment my words changed. That's what it means to speak your comeback into existence. It's refusing to let your tongue speak defeat into your destiny. Sometimes you have to speak from a place of pain. Maybe you're sitting in the middle of failure. Maybe you've lost everything. That's the hardest time to find words of strength. But that's exactly when your words matter most. Because when you speak power in a powerless place, you start rewriting your story. Say it like a mantra. I will rise again. I will rebuild. I will not stay down. Say it until it drowns out the noise of doubt. It's like building a house. Every word you speak is a brick. Negativity builds walls that trap you inside. Positivity builds doors that lead you forward. If you keep saying, I can't, you're locking yourself in. But if you start saying, can, I will, I must, you're breaking down walls one word at a time. This isn't about lying to yourself. It's about leading yourself. When you speak strength, your mind starts to align with it. Your body follows your beliefs. Your actions start matching your words. And suddenly, the world starts responding differently to you. You begin to attract what you've been declaring all along. Every comeback begins with a declaration. You got to say it before you see it. Because if you wait for proof before you speak, you'll never speak at all. Life rewards the ones who claim their future before it's visible. That's why you have to guard your tongue. Never use your mouth to feed your fears. Use it to fuel your future. Your voice has the power to shape your environment, to command your confidence back into being. Even on the worst days, even when you feel empty, let your words lead you. Say it out loud. I am not what happened to me. I am what I choose to become. Say it until the sound of your own strength drowns out the memory of your setbacks. That's how you speak your comeback into existence, one powerful word at a time.